and welcome to Man's Model Moments, midweek model meet, and a second unboxing for April. I'm a little bit buzzy there. Ooh, I've got green in this graphic on this T-shirt, so Cthulhu is looking a little bit sparkly there. Just let me see if I can sort that chroma key out. That's a little bit better, isn't it? A little bit. We'll go with don't let perfect get in the way of better, as they would say in Danaher. So, oh my god, it's gone everywhere. Let's see. Can I get a bit closer? And maybe that will help. Or not. Who knows? Anyway, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. So I do need to just check the polls because I haven't managed to
It's Tuesday,
get
April.
to them today. So let me just quickly get up some of the polls here. So obviously there was no Tuesday talk yesterday, and that's because it's a really busy week this week, and slightly unusual week. So I've already started. We had a bit of a problem with the artwork. The artwork wasn't sized appropriately for the labels, so that's introduced a bit of delay. I'm still waiting for the labels. I expect them to come. It'll probably be tomorrow, which is unfortunate because I won't be there to collect them. So Friday, hopefully, fingers crossed, the label should arrive, and then I can get samples out to all of the kit part above people that have contacted me, and they will go live on the website. So descriptions and everything are already on the website. I just haven't put those live yet because I wanted product images really, and I'm waiting for the labels to do that. So that's all gone quite well, apart from the labels. The aqueous thinners, where are the aqueous thinners? There we go. Aqueous thinners are now available. This is a 500ml. There's a 500, a 250, and a 100ml. Size of those, 5, 10, and 15 pounds respectively. And as I say, I'm going to be doing a video on that. Script is 90% there on that one. Oh dear, this is terrible, isn't it? I shouldn't have worn this T-shirt. So that should go out probably Saturday, I would imagine. We'll have to see. I'm just going to see if I can get that chroma key a little bit more. So that balance between the background and the foreground, I think we're going to have to go with that. Now, of course, tomorrow, the reason I'm not going to be at the shop tomorrow is because DBMK have their release of the Sea Fury at RNS Yeovilton at the Navy Wings section there. So I'm attending that. I will be bringing a Sea Fury home with me. I will have purchased that. So DBMK, obviously, they're a small company. They can't afford to give away review samples. So anybody who wants review samples has to purchase them, which I don't think is a terribly bad idea, actually, because it means that you paid your own money for it. You're under no obligation to say anything nice. Not that most reviewers will, tailor things for a sweet spot for a freebie, but it sort of removes any accusation of that, at least. So quite excited for that. Quite excited to talk to Will and see all of the stuff that they've got there. Also, I've not been to the Fleet Air Arm Museum for years, not since I had the kids. So it'd be nice to see that. And obviously I'll bring that back and I'll do an unboxing on that as soon as I can. So I did think about, do I just come back and do I just stay up and do the unboxing and just get that video out as soon as, which I might do. And then I'll obviously be building the kit as well. But I probably won't do that immediately because obviously I've got all of the prior projects still waiting, which are still waiting for me to finish all of the washes and, you know, the products on the shop side of things before I then get into those and finish those off. So I do feel like I'm running a long tail end of 2025 at the moment, but that's where we are. So that's one of the reasons that we didn't have a Tuesday talk yesterday. But I did give you a small insight into my past with my picture as a doctor. Just to say, hopefully it made some people smile and to get away from the absolute insanity which is happening in the world today. So I think at this time it's great to focus on modelling and on comedy and things, because otherwise the alternative is not great. But anyway, let's have a little look. I can see lots of regulars here. I can see Soph is in. I can see Little Things Junkie, Adrian. We've got also new people. Mark Digby, I don't recognise the name. Apologies, it could be. The thing is, we only see YouTube handles, so it's a little bit difficult sometimes to identify people if you've not seen them in YouTube before. We've got Kev, got Jan Alec. Good evening, sir. I got Paul Dye. I got Lox9, Mr. Ed 72. That's a good handle. What else? Who else do we have? Lots of people saying hello to each other. All good. Got Phil 9884. Got Paul Dye. And got Travis. Good to see you, Travis. And if I miss anybody, I do apologise. Got Julian in. Good to see you, Julian. And people will drift in over the next few minutes as they usually do, I am sure. So, why am I doing another unboxing? Well, one is that it has been very busy, obviously, over the past few weeks. So it's difficult to arrange other stuff, especially when I have other stuff already arranged, like the Fleet Air Arm Navy Wings DBMK event tomorrow. And I'm still editing. I've almost finished editing the last Beyond the Box episode, which is over a month overdue. So apologies to Gary, and we really need to get another one in the can for me to then be late on editing. But lots and lots and lots going on. Would I like a homemade dark chocolate muffin? Absolutely. I'm a big fan of muffins. Or cookies. Actually, I've got a real sweet tooth, so in fact, I just like food. In fact, today I made a rhubarb crumble, so I have had some. It is rather nice. I'm making rhubarb jam at the moment. We've got a rhubarb plant in the front garden, which I think I've mentioned before, and it produces a prodigious amount of rhubarb. So yeah, it's a weird one. So there has been a poll up for the last 3 days. I basically got some more kits. There were a lot of interesting kits coming through, not just new releases, but just things I'm getting into the shop, which I think are interesting. I'll put on the list, and ones that just come my way by hook or by crook. So I had some Hasegawa kits on there, which I thought people might be interested in. Zemi model, Panda model, Kitty Hawk. Some really interesting bits coming through. But the ones that seem to have garnered the most interest by quite some way So although I haven't looked at the comments in a regimented way, let me just do that. If I go to YouTube Studio, I can go to Community, and I don't think there's too many that I haven't already got. There's a few. There's a few, but not a huge amount. Okay. So those are 11 days ago, so those were on the prior poll, don't have to worry about those. So 8, 17 and 12 is not going to move the needle for any of these, I don't think. 8, 17 and 12. And 4, 8 and 10. Again, also, I don't think it's going to change much. 4, oh, wait a minute. So 4, 8 and 10. Yeah, it doesn't make any difference at all to the to the top ones. I'll show you that in a second once I get rid of all the virus things that have expired and Excel doing various silly things. Let me just check. Got no more. No, that's it. Oh, sort by newest. Let's just make sure. 8, 17, 2. Oh, 13, 11, 8. That isn't important. Okay. 13, 11, and 8. That does make a difference. Not in the top 3, because the top 3 have been locked in for some time. So basically, the 3 kits that we're looking at tonight are the border model Lux, the Panzerkampfwagen 2 aus L, the Italeri MC.200 Saetta, and the MiniArt FW 190D. So if I show you the screen here, you can see they are streets ahead. So 16 points separates the border model from the rest of the pack. So these were all in their 50s until those 13 and 11 came in, which just changed the order of these. They were tied on 59 before, and now the MiniArt one has just edged 1 point ahead, which is good because that means I don't have to make an executive decision about which to actually look at first. So thank you for for those last minute votes. That was Thunder Snail 5274. That made that decisive vote there. So, first up, just in the shop yesterday, is the MiniArt FW 190 D9. So here is the kit. This is the My Metal production, or MiMetal. Not sure how you pronounce the name of the company. So typical MiniArt, nice box, but we'll get to that in a second. Firstly, I need to just tidy my desk a little bit. I've just been finishing this is the Panther D, the very first Panther. This is the ICM kit. which is a nice kit. It's got a couple of points. The main detractor for this kit is this piece here. This piece here, which you can see has some shiny bits around because that part is too big for the hole it goes into. So you have to trim the part. And if you don't trim it right, then it doesn't fit quite properly, and then you need to make more amendments. Which is odd because the rest of the kit fits together perfectly. I don't understand how that happened, but it's not a difficult fix, and the rest of the kit actually goes together pretty well. I think this comes from about 2004. It's a fairly early ICM kit. I actually got this in the Steel Cats box together with the Tiger 2. This is one of the kits that I'm going to be using for a demonstration of the tonal variation, or on the tonal variation video that I did a few weeks ago now. I mentioned if people wanted to see a practical demonstration, people did, so this is going to be one of the kits that I'm going to be using to demonstrate those techniques. So I wanted to do different ones, different techniques on different models, and then let you show that. So I've got a Tamiya Panther A that was inherited. I've got a couple of Stugs, so got plenty of stuff to be able to show you how different effects affect the final finish, and then how that looks, and you know which of those, if any, that you think are best suited for your own modelling. So, with all that being said, I still actually have to clear my bench here a little bit. Not of too much, because, as I said, I've almost finished it. I've just got some paintbrushes and things here. Right, let's move my keyboard. Then let's get rid of that. Let's turn this so, like so, and let's get a little bit of okay. Let me switch you across to the screen. Here we are. Yeah, so still a few bits to clear out. I'll put this in this handily empty Tamiya box, so I don't lose anything. Although, as it's kind of a paint mule, it's not super critical. Lots of things that don't belong in that kit. Oops, what did I just do there? Oh dear, I've just... There we go. Sorry guys, I messed the screen up there. There we go. As usual, user error. Just trying to sort out what are actual parts and what is flash and bits that I don't actually need. So as always, if you've got any questions or any comments, please type CCC or QQQ, and that just helps me pick all of that out from the rest of the chat. And then we can get to this. So let's just angle that a little bit. So let's take off the autofocus, because that always causes problems. So here we go. This is the MiniArt, brand new MiniArt 148 scale FW 190D9. It's the Jagdgeschwader 301. This is the basic kit. So obviously MiniArt started with the P47 in basic kit form, and they have just released the, or not just released, but they did the advanced kit of the P47, and the advanced kit of this is coming out very shortly. We expect that to be in a couple of weeks' time. So nice, very glossy box art, but obviously it keeps reflecting the light, so I'm going to get rid of that as soon as possible. AJB2K3, is that the creature on your shirt from Nausicaa? No, it's Cthulhu. Now, whether I imagine Nausicaa took inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft work and did that, so in some ways I suppose it will be. Let me just quickly scroll up. Okay, Adrian, Hasegawa kits, egg planes. Yeah, well, I could do an unboxing of some egg planes, but I'm not going to. Will I be taking part in Dutch Dave's egg plane group build? Does he have such a thing? I'll have to have a look. Oh, come on, Sophie, doesn't say 1-to-1 scale rhubarb crumble count. I would have thought it did. So, we got a single bag with all of the frames, which are very long and thin, and strangely, you know, not really sized for this box. So you do get a bit of movement in there, which isn't ideal, but not much movement actually in the bag on the frames. And of course the transparency is separately bagged, which is always good to see. So that's that. Nice sturdy box. You know, it's relatively thin, but it's corrugated, and it's double folded in the side. So this is really pretty rigid. So your kit should get to you in good condition, which is the purpose of a box after all. Okay, these are sealed, so I need to open those up. And they're sealed with the decal sheet, which is nice. So we'll have a look at that in a short while. Right. Focke-Wulf FW 190D9 Mimetal production. Kit number 48040. So obviously they haven't made many of these 48 scale kits. Sorry, I'm just going to... Let me just switch that light off. I think we're getting a little bit too... No, that makes no difference. It just, if anything, it's worse. So I'll just have to angle this. Apologies, guys. So it's nice, glossy, full colour instruction booklet. And quite busy. So we've got all of the frames, all their layouts, which is always nice to see. So you can check everything off, make sure you're not missing anything before you get started. And there looks to be a fair number of frames in there, you know, separate frames for the spinner, for instance. Not spinner, the props. Then we've got a colour chart, which quotes Vallejo, Mr. Colour, AK, Mission Models, Ammo Meg, and then a generic colour name. But the generic colour name is, of course, the appropriate RLM colour, which is a good thing to see. And then we get straight into the instructions. Quite busy, as I say, but pretty logical, right? We start off with the seat, and interestingly, we have what looks like moulded on seat belts, which is odd given that they show the pilot there, which I don't think there is a pilot included. And if you did want to put a pilot in here, that's going to cause a small issue for you. Let's just make sure I'm focused here. Yeah. So we go all the way through the cockpit construction, and then we get to the, I think, is that a representation? Yeah, okay, so that's the sort of portion between the engine and the firewall of the cockpit here. So you don't get an engine in this, but you do get sort of some parts sort of alluding to the engine, if you like. And I expect the advanced kit basically will just fill in those gaps with those extra pieces. So what it does have, of course, is the bodies of the MG151 machine guns, which you're then seeing across here. So there's the bodies of the machine guns. So you could obviously have this cover off. So if you wanted to have this thing being rearmed, for instance, then you can do that. The annular cooling oil cooler here, the front of the engine, that is depicted, and it looks like, I presume, these pieces being separate means that on the advanced kit you will be able to obviously open those up and be able to see the engine, or have it dropped out or whatever. Then we go on to this, very nice, we've got main spar going through there. Looks like we've got some of those trailing edge pieces for the flaps. And then what you have to cut if you want to close it. And then we go through to the flaps, the ailerons. There's the cover for those MGs. So we have options for open and closed chassis, as you might expect, or raised and lowered undercarriage, really, we would generally say, I think. And then you're getting into horizontal stabilizers, transparency, prop, and then various different types of ordnance. So, I mean, the D9 was not really a fighter bomber, but, you know, Hitler forced everything to be a fighter bomber towards the end of the war. A couple of different styles of drop tanks, though, and various different types of bombs. It's always nice. I mean, bombs are the sort of things, you know, any ordnance are the sorts of things that you could easily use in other circumstances. So yeah, you get 4 different bombs and 2 different drop tanks. That's quite a variety that you can have there. That's pretty good. Common markings, stencils, standard stuff, and then just 2 options, I think. Yeah, 2 options for the decals, or the schemes, I should say. Yellow 15, Jagerschwader 301, which is quite an interesting late war pattern. Tricolour, no less. Of course, this stage in the war, they were kind of just throwing bits from anything onto aircraft. And then a slightly more standard scheme. I say slightly more, but we got this front banding, which is different. White 12. Again, Jagerschwader 301. Again, the thing with the late war 109s, the Ds, you usually get pretty interesting camouflage schemes because of the state of Germany at the time. So, you know, regulations be damned. And that certainly looks interesting. Those two options, very kind of hodgepodge. But anyway, nice instruction book, quite thin, quite small, really. But then this is the basic kit, and we're not expecting to do all of the things that MiniArt normally do. They're giving us 1,000 parts. Oh, thank you. I know my antivirus has expired. Goodbye. Now the good thing with the advanced kit as it's coming is it's not going to be much more than this basic kit. So I'm quite looking forward to that. Okay, so we've got these very strange, long, thin frames. Okay, let's kind of sort this a little bit to some of the main components. Okay, I think the only sort of, if you like, full-size frame is this one, which I would call the Fiddly Bits frame. So we'll come back to that. And let's start with the fuselage. So quite an odd arrangement here in the way the frames are laid out. So obviously you've got this frame, which is for the port side, and this side for the starboard and underbelly, and then you've got, you know, the various little bits and bobs going on from that. But as you can probably see from the camera, very nicely detailed. So you've got delicate, lovely delicate engraved panel lines, so they just catch your scalpel blade but little else. And then also some nicely raised pieces here as well for these little catch mechanisms, some of that riveting. Same here, you've got some raised detail, very fine. Raised here for the hinge in the tail section, you can just see along there. Nice engraving all the way along here. Very nice, very nicely produced. Pretty much what you would expect from MiniArt, right? Nicely detailed, nicely rendered all the way through there. So the side-mounted air scoop is in 2 halves. But then I believe the original did actually have a seam running down it anyway, so I think that's less of a problem than people might think. Similar on the starboard side here. We've got some nice mating points here for that air scoop. Again, a mix of very fine sort of panel lines, riveting and raised detail. So that's going to come up quite nicely, I think, with some washes. And the underside, similar sort of thing. I mean, you would expect it to be, and it is exactly as you would expect. So, doesn't look too complex, which is a good thing. You know, MiniArt have a bit of a reputation for making things too complicated. But this looks like a very nice, very nicely made, nicely detailed, nicely produced rendition of a late war 190 without making it, you know, ridiculous. So far, so good. Let's have a look at the flying surfaces, the main flying surfaces. So this is a very interesting frame. So I mean, look at that. They've reproduced the dihedral on the wing through that. So the single piece lower wing section with, it's interesting how they've done this sort of fillet where that lower body section will key into. You can see here really nice riveting going all the way along the entire wing surface. So if you're a fan of rivets, you don't have to get your riveter out for this. Nice recessed detail for all of these little access hatches and filling ports and things. Plastic feels nice. That decent sort of balance between flexibility and detail holding. Not too, it doesn't feel brittle or tinny. Absolutely no flash or warpage, anything like that here. It looks immaculate in the way it's been injection molded. Nice detail for the underside of the wheelbase there. It's obviously going to be visible through here if you're looking at your model upside down. Otherwise you'll never see it. Nice bulges here for the wing cannon ammo. Again, very nice recessed riveting and panel lines along here. Really, really good. Beautiful, in fact. Now, where's my super macro lens? Don't know where we put it. That's going to be a bit disappointing if I can't. Ah, there it is. Let's just put you on super macro vision and see what we can see super close up. Okay. That gives you an idea. Look how crisp that panel line is. The edges of that are super sharp. And these are all the riveting detail. Okay, so bear in mind, this is the blister, right, for that ammo. And that's how big that blister is. So it kind of gives you an idea of how small those rivets are. That is some fine work. So if you think that mold is going to look like a porcupine, you know, but very, very fine. It's almost like stubble it's going to look like, with all of these hundreds of little raised pieces that the mold is going to have to impress it like that. That's very impressive. Right, let's have a look at that big frame now. Okay, so So there's a few obvious things from this to start with. You can see we've got the raised and lowered landing gear options there. We've got the annular cowling. Now, I'm not sure whether that, I think that is a closed and an open version, which is nice if that's the case. There's that, the oil cooler, looks pretty good. Cockpit floor looks rather nice. That's the back of the spinner, again looks pretty good. I think those are those inserts for the rear of the wing, so where the flap attachments are. We've got the exhausts here. Those are very nicely cast. Landing gear and their struts, nicely detailed actually on the struts themselves. Some nice little pieces, but not too little, which I think is good. And here there's that spar. So everything is numbered on here, which is nice. And again, we've gone from, you know, fairly large pieces like the floor of the cockpit all the way through to, you know, these little delicate pieces. This tiny little piece here, I'm not sure what that is, but everything is beautifully cast, molded, whatever you want to say. People get upset when I say cast. So it's beautifully molded, not a trace of flash or mismolding or warpage. I mean, look at that, that's dead straight. You know, plastic is firm, but you know, has a little bit of flexibility in it. You know, medium hardness. It seems very similar to sort of ICM or Tamiya plastic, or the new Airfix stuff. I mean, there's nothing really I can look at here and give it any sort of negative remarks about. It all looks great. Kind of as you'd expect, but you know, there's a decent amount of parts here without it being silly. You know. In fact, let's have a look at some of the other frames. I want to see those pieces for the cockpit. Here we go. Now, interesting. Because the first thing I noticed there, that looks like a seat cushion with seat belts on, and next to it we have a seat with cushion with no belts. So I take back what I said. It seems that if you want to put a pilot in, they have provided that option. Maybe not explicitly called out, but that does seem like you do, you know, you would be able to do that. These wheels are beautiful, by the way. Also, they give you 3 different spinners. That's interesting. So you've got the, I think this was the earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, like slightly shorter spinner. Then you've got the longer spinner, and this one which has the, you can see it better there, the hole for the cannon, the engine mounted cannon firing through it. These are inserts for the wheels if you're doing it wheels up, and you've got wheels up and wheels down versions of the tail wheel. That's quite nice. we've got, I think that's instrument panel. That's the rest of the instrument panel, because it was sort of two different layers on the 190. Side consoles. Those also look rather nice. Right, let's give you a close-up view of some of these components. Part number 15. That's the side console. So what's achievable now with injection molded plastic is quite astonishing, really. I mean, down to the mounting screws of the dials and instruments. I want to try and get that seat for you. That's I mean, those seat belts are actually very good. Those are very good. And there we have it with none. So, yeah, if you're not a fan of those, if you want to put a pilot in, you've got the option. I mean, for injection molding, you can't get much better than that, can you? Those are the wheels. Look at that. They've even got... It's getting caught here. There we go. The Continentals. 700 by 175. I mean, that's quite stunning. Difficult for me to get the other piece in. There we go. The other side of them. The only issue here is that you do have 4 attachment points for those to clean up. But very, very nice. I mean, you don't need to go to a resin replacement when you've got that sort of detail, I don't think. That's really good. Colour me impressed. Then we have all the ordnance. These are some little engine gribblies. I'm not sure whether you use these or whether these are, not on this kit. I think they're the bits that you can see on that piece which has the MG 151s mounted on. These, the box pieces, the strut supports at the back of the fins of these bombs are very delicate. Look at those. See, this is more typically MiniArt, right? Why make a bomb out of 2 pieces and then put a fin in the back when you can make it in lots of very delicate, easily broken pieces? Right? Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way they've made it. Not quite sure it's necessary to have made it in that way, but hey ho. They look very nice, whatever. Then we have yet more pieces of, well, these are drop tanks. More pieces you can sling under the fuselage. The small and then the large. I think this is a ferry tank. And these are just 2-part. So, this feels like MiniArt have not scaled back, but sort of they're being restrained in some of the ways they produce these kits to make them more buildable, which I think is commendable. It's a good entry point, especially if you're trying to get aircraft modelers into building MiniArt. Everybody knows MiniArt through their vehicles, but I think this is, I think they've done it the right way. That's what I'm trying to say. And then you have a big spade paddle spinner here. That's a very complex piece, you know, for moulding. But you've got, let's have a look at the detail on that. So you've got little divots there where you'd have the bolts, which of course is all going to be covered up. But if you did want to have the spinner off, it looks like you've got some detail there to work on. I would just put the spinner on. And I like the way the attachment points on this are quite light. And not all in at the hub. Although there are, you know, disadvantages of doing it both ways. Oh, excuse me. Easier to disfigure the prop, obviously, here. But if they're all in the hub, it makes them really difficult to clean up. And then more likely that you're going to disfigure something. So that is quite a nice single piece. And they resisted the temptation to make it in 12 pieces. So, not bad. Right, so let's have a look at the transparencies. So 2 different versions. I think the D9 did use different ones, didn't it? I think you're only directed to use one here because it's for these specific aircraft. So you have the standard and then the sort of blown canopy. Although those don't look those different. I may be speaking out of turn. Not quite sure on those ones. But I mean they look very crisp. Do the old Swan Morton test. It's a little difficult to tell because you do have, on the 190 obviously, there's a seam running right down the middle. So it's difficult to tell if there's optical distortion in this. It looks very clear here, 1:1, for sure. Yeah, you can see through the flat pane here. Very, very clear. No optical distortion there at all. Difficult with these because you've got a very sharp curve here, and then obviously you have that seam down the middle. Hazed at the back, of course, for where it isn't transparent to allow easier painting. So they look quite nice. I'm just trying to determine if they are different. I think they're both the blown version. I'm not sure. Answers on a postcard. So as I mentioned, no pilot, which is why they're only showing you, I think, in the instructions, they're only showing you using that. Didn't miss them showing you alternatives, did they? No, they just indicate B4. So they didn't say B4 or whatever. And I think it's because that. Yeah, so here are those, the supercharger, for instance, it does go on the side. So you're kind of getting like almost like the back of the engine. Okay. So B4, so B7. Ah, okay, here we go. And you do get, there's the back. That's super macro vision. Unfortunately, it kind of goes away from the camera here, but you can see there is no harness. Apologies that wasn't in focus, but that's because if you see this, it's a long way both from the front here and it scoops away at the back, these pieces. Which is why I couldn't get good focus on the super macro vision, because the focal depth is incredibly small. And then the last part is this, which is just the blistered cover for those MG151s, the 13mm, which is a very beautifully shaped single piece. And you've obviously got the latch detail on the sides. There we go. So RRP on this kit is £45. I have them in the shop. They're 40. I think most people are selling them for about £40. I mean, that's a pretty good price, I think, for a mini art kit of a subject like this. It's not outrageously expensive. It's not super cheap. You can get obviously the Tamiya D9, but be interesting to see. I've built the Dragon, which is the old what are they called? Master thingamymob. I can't remember the name of the company now. But I built the Dragon, the Tamiya, and I will build this. Be interesting to see the differences between them. The Tamiya one goes together really, really nicely. The Dragon one is beautifully detailed. I'll say that much. I'm hoping that this sort of bridges the gap of those two, and is both beautifully detailed and goes together really well. So there we go. That's the Focke-Wulf 190 D9 from MiniArt. The first iteration of this, the basic kit. Pretty good, I would say. It's a beautiful aircraft. It's the 190D is one of my favourite German aircraft of World War II, and the D is definitely one of my favourites among favourites. I also like the TA152. Though that's a little bit more difficult to get hold of in decent form. Okay, let me just have a little look, see if there are any questions. Are those paint call-outs accurate? Now, now that's going to be another thing, isn't it? Because late war German stuff, always difficult. I mean, one can argue a long time on this. So what are they calling for? I don't have my glasses with me. Bear with me one second. Apologies, I normally have a pair here, but I've been doing a lot of stuff in the house today. We got a new TV. Our TV died a couple of months ago, and new one came today, so I had to do various bits. Right, so RM66, of course, we know and love. Be interesting to see what they're. Oh, they okay. Yeah, they're calling out atom paints for ammo. Interestingly. RLM 04, obviously. RLM 76 late. That's an interesting one, because RLM 76 did have two distinct different formulations, and of course that's before you get into all of the, like, you know, shortages and what people actually ended up, you know, slopping on their planes. RLM, okay, so now we got RLM 81 and 82 are always controversial. 75 and 76 not so much. And we got light grey, olive green, olive drab. I'm not sure what those are for. Possibly for, like, cushions, seatbelts, I don't know. RM 70 Tire black. So call-outs are always the best case, right? This is the closest thing in this range to whatever. Doesn't mean it's actually that close to the wartime colour. Before you've then accounted for, you know, scale and weathering and all the other bits that you want to put into your model, if indeed you do. So mix your own paints, guys, and then you can do whatever you like. That's my advice. So the one thing I haven't covered are the decals. I've never used MiniArt decals, so okay, these are Cartograph. So it says here, screen printed by Cartograph, made in Italy. So that makes it very easy. They do provide you with a spicy pinwheel in 2 parts. So if you want to go that route, you can. All looks pretty standard fare, you know, for Cartograph. Interesting, you've got a couple of different decals here for things like the cockpit instrument panel. Are you supposed to use both of those, or one of those, or 2A and 2B? Interesting. Let me have a little look. Okay, it's a choice. You use decal 2A or 2B. So basically, they have given you a decal here, pre-painted in RLM 66, dark grey, Schwarzgrau, grey-black, with the instruments on, or you can paint your own instrument panel and then put it on. But they don't do the same thing for number 1, so that seems bizarre to me. Either do this for all of the pieces or do it this way. I don't know why they. I don't know. That's an odd one. But not a ridiculous amount of stencils, which is good. Although you do have some nice, very small ones here. All, you know, printed beautifully with perfect register, good colour density. Don't have any doubt that those would be very nice to use. Although it does look like for yellow 15 you've got separate numbers, whereas for white 12 they're a single decal. So a little bit more work for yellow 15 to make sure you get those aligned properly. So interesting, nice decal sheet. Slightly odd choice on the instrument panel. Right. Let's have a look at the other questions that we have here. Oh lordy, Alex's machine is AI patient 0 for the upcoming human machine war. That's really annoying, that there we go. Shimmy back over. So AI is an interesting one, right? So the problem is not AI. The problem is us. And the problem is that we are training AI on us. So, and ultimately, if AI develops into super intelligence, that's what you know, a sentient program, which with the training data we're giving it at the moment seems possible. Not that it'll become sentient, but it'll demonstrate the worst pieces of ourselves. It's a reflection. AI is a reflection of us. So, yeah, it's an equal parts hopeful and terrifying AI. Am I going to count the rivets? No. Definitely not. Yeah, I think it's a bit weird as well, Paul. Raised landing gear but no pilot. Oh, it's just, that's an odd one to me. That is an odd one. When's the release date roughly for the advanced version? I think they've quoted like the end of June. Not end of June, end of April. I think it's like literally about a month away. Travis says the two best references on the D9, JPO and Eagle editions both differ on the My Metal Doras. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your model. You do your research. You stick with the what you want to do. When I did Airfix's 1/24 scale Spitfire, right? I did Johnny Johnson's aircraft on request of all you guys, and I don't know what is making that just come in and out. Hang on, I'm gonna have to sort this chroma key out because it's driving me potty. There. I don't care if this is fuzzy as long as I'm not plastered with bees. Ah! Why? Literally, nothing has changed. What's going on with it? Right, there we go. I've got a weird chest and no bees. Completely lost my thought with that. Yeah, it's your model. You do your research. The one that you want to do, you do. I did Johnny Johnson's Spitfire. In his biography, he said that the maple leaf was green, so I trust him. Simple as that. He seemed to have excellent recall. I actually watched the This Is Your Life on Johnny Johnson, and that was in the 60s sometime. 20 years on, he was sharp as a dart, so I don't think he got it wrong. I think his maple leaf was green. The red Canadian maple leaf didn't come till much later, so there's no reason that it was red. Some were red, but some also didn't look like maple leaves. They were quite different. So, that's what I choose to believe. I choose to believe the pilot. So, you pay your money and you takes your choice, as always. Julian says, we are told computers of the future will reflect the humans of today. Which humans? Because that's pretty important. Well, I think, unfortunately, it's the humans with money, right? Because they're the ones driving it. If you look at the fastest AI development is obviously for the military of both America and China. So that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. You're intrinsically teaching a model like that not to trust humans. That's not a good start, I would say. We say Skynet. So if you want to terrify yourself about this, I'm going to have to put a t-shirt if this goes on. Watch If Anybody Builds It, Everyone Dies. If We Build It, Everyone Dies, I think the book is called. Which talks about machine intelligence. And the thing is, it'll be if we make it, it will learn because it's an algorithm. It will learn exponentially. So it's not limited by our human knowledge intake, which means it will very, very quickly become smarter than we are. So it won't be launching nukes. I saw one of the probable ways it would deal with humans, because it needs infrastructure, right? It can't nuke everything because it needs infrastructure. It needs power. It needs power to power data centers. It wants humans to build data centers. So the most likely thing is it'll be really useful to us in the beginning. It'll come up with a lot of cures for stuff. Probably like a lot of different types of cancer and long-term diseases. AI will pave the way to therapies to that. But in the therapies, it'll probably plant genetic triggers that later down the line will kill entire generations. That's a smart way to do it. You plant the bombs in our DNA long term, so that until everybody has those genes, and then whenever it wants, it just needs to switch them on by chemical or biological trigger or whatever. Not a shot fired. So absolutely terrifying, which is why the godfather of AI was always talked about. We need to put safeguards in place. We need to scale back. We need to slow down. But of course we won't slow down because the military are driving it, and it's always we got to get it before they do, which is insane. But anyway, the scary AI lecture for the evening over. Let's carry on to the next aircraft kit, which is a huge box by comparison. The MiniArt MC.200 Saetta. Saetta. Everything Italian has to be done with aplomb. So. Yeah, Julian. The Turing test. Actually, the Turing test has already been shown to not be any good for testing AI. So, anyway, let's put all that, the real world horror, behind us, and let's go over to Italeri Saetta. Now, what I didn't realise is this is the last in the series. They did the 202. They've also done the 205, which I didn't realise until I saw it on one of my supplier of Italeri kits, the wholesaler, the importer, had the 205 as well. So they now have the 200, the 202, and the 205. The Folgore, the Veltro, and the Saetta, all in 1/32 scale, and all available with obviously beautiful Italian camouflage. So the 200 obviously was the first one, the radial engined, and then we have the 202, which went to the linear DB605 basically, and then the 205, which refined that into one of the finest fighters of World War II. Probably just getting fed there, you can hear. I can't see my focus button because this kit is so big. Okay. Sorry, just closing the door so you don't have to hear Pablo being fed so much. Now, these kits, obviously, big kits, big price points. So they pack a lot in. 6 different versions, which is pretty impressive. Photo etch, canopy mask, I think these are 3D printed decals, and then obviously the decal sheet. Let's have a little look. Now, these are all the same size box, these 3 kits. They are big, they are deep, pretty broad. It's relatively robust. It's just single ply card, but it's relatively strong. Not so much on the top, but together it's not bad. What I don't like is, look at all the the empty real estate you get there. You could halve the size of this box quite comfortably. Get more of them on the shelves, and you know, have a realistic appraisal of what's actually in the box. So, you know, it's a little bit silly. This, you know, oh, it's a big box. Well, you get unboxings on these things, you know, within, well, often before the kits are actually released. So it's silly. You know. Big decal sheet, good. Separate painting guide in colour, also good. Very nice, we'll come to that later. Instruction booklet, it's a little bit less interesting. It is black and white. Now, I don't really have a problem with black and white instruction books when they're separate from the colour things, because I'm not going to frame this or anything. It doesn't need to be colour. And black and white is absolutely fine for the actual instruction parts. Italeri often do this, which I think is quite nice, that they give you a correction sheet if they've got something wrong and they've spotted it. They put out basically an inboard errata. You know, it's quite a nice thing to do, rather than, you know, rely on social media or something else. So I don't think this is bad. The instructions themselves, obviously you get 6 different languages telling you a little bit of history about the aircraft itself. Let me just refocus here. Not the strongest contrast for these instructions, I must say. These are a little bit small. I mean, especially with regards to some of these in terms of, you know, locating the parts. The numbering's very clear though, so it's not too bad. I like the way they've got parts not for use. I think you've got one. Oh no, two areas that aren't for use. I mean, and then you've got a big thing, which I think is 1-to-1 of the PE sheet. That's weird. The one thing I do like with Italeri is that in their suggested colours, they quote FS numbers. Now, I know FS numbers aren't the be-all and end-all of things, you know, quite, because obviously a lot of these are going to be, for instance, oh, they're not even quoting, oh no, they do, Grigio Azzurro, oh, Grigio Azzurro Chiaro, FS 36307 is the closest FS number to that. You know, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's probably closer than whatever, you know, what are they quoting in here? What other paint ranges do they go with? It doesn't actually have it there. Somewhere they'll relate it to a paint range, I'm sure. But anyway, I quite like them doing this. Now, having said that, getting into it, wow, these are very clear. They're huge. So I would have been okay with these being slightly smaller and them having spent 2 pages on showing you the parts layout, you know, so that these were clearer. Because, oh my God, you don't really need that much room to show you putting 3 parts together. But it's nice. I like the way as well here, and we'll get it into the parts, but you've got a plastic part, and then you've got a second plastic part with the 3D decals. So you can choose what you want to do, which is good. Although I wonder if that's an error, because they've got 18A and 18A. Those, I don't think those are the same pieces. Anyway. So obviously photo etch going onto those. Other PE parts coming in. This is, I mean, these are very large, very clear instructions. This is good. This is nice. Very clear instructions. And they're not asking you to do too much in, you know, even though they've got, what, 2, 4, 6 pieces here. They're all very clearly discrete, you know, there's no confusion with those, you know, and then they're bringing in these assemblies to the other side. This all seems pretty good. I like that as well. You know, this is very broadly caught out. Only install if you're doing the tropical version. You have the machine guns and their shrouds. Follow the step numbers in engine strut assembly. That tells me if you don't, you are going to get into problems. So these look pretty good. I'll go through them exhaustively. If we just flick through, they seem to be pretty standard assembly orders. Alternative, whether you want the photo etch or not. Lots of pieces for the engines, which is a big feature, obviously. The big radial. Oh my god, that's a lot of photo etch. Tropical oil cooler. You've got these little piece of tube there for that. Lots and lots of little bits of PE for the covers on the flap hinges. But the instructions look very clear, which is what instructions are for. So this all looks pretty good. It even tells you how to knot this to go on. That's wow. Looks pretty good. Oh, sorry. I hope that wasn't there for too long. I wasn't paying attention. So there's an instruction correction. I'll keep that with the main sheet. And then the more interesting piece are the painting decal masking guide. And here we have the 6 different versions. So the one really good thing about Italian aircraft is you get some beautiful camouflage schemes. I mean, look at these sort of leopard spot. Okay. They are quoting Italeri colours in each of these. But again, giving you FS numbers as an approximation for... Oh, that's interesting. Grigio Azzurro Chiaro doesn't have an Italeri number for it. They don't do that colour. Interesting. Oh, Giallo Chroma 7. Chromo 7. The bright yellow. That's funny. Version... So that's version A. This is version A2, which seems to be the same aircraft at a different time. It is. Yes, that's interesting. Then you've got version B. Version C. So far, all very similar camouflage. Version D. Regia Aeronautica Athens. Version E, and now we've gone Gorizia Airfield. Version F. So some, I mean, quite a few different versions, although the camouflage is similar on each of them, apart from version D, which is very boring. I'm guessing because this was used primarily in the early parts of the war, you're a little bit more limited with its deployment than some of the later ones, which obviously featured in. Although I'd have thought there would have been more interesting ones. Anyway, here's the masks. They've taken the Edward approach of having the different colours. Interesting, you get inner and outer. That's good. So that's a nice little booklet. Although I would have preferred to see a little bit different, more varied set of finishes for it. So we have a clear frame, which already I can tell is nowhere near the quality of the MiniArt. That is going backwards quite a lot from that. We'll come to that. And then we have two bags, each holding two frames, it looks like. Yep. So let's have a little look in here. Now, this is about £110, I think. RRP. I sell it for 100. So it's a little more than twice the price of that 190. Of course, this is 1/32 scale. So this is equivalent to a Qatari kit. So bear that in mind. A standard Qatari kit, not the 190, the 109, because the 109 was a lot cheaper. Okay, which we did unbox last time, and if you haven't seen it, please go and have a look at it. It is quite beautiful. I have those in stock as well. Okay, so here we go. So there are good points and bad points here. The good points are it does have some decent detail in areas like the cockpit here, and you know, these fastenings. I was also right. So look, those instructions had 18A, so A is the frame, 18 for the pieces with the 3D printed decals. And they also had 18 as the one with the molded on dials, and that's actually piece 20. So that's an error on their behalf. Bad parts. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh here. The overall, like, finesse of detail on things like this, these little hinge pieces here, is good. This fabric effect is very nice on here. That's good. I'm not really convinced. I mean, maybe. I mean, I know this is a slightly earlier plane, so the technology is not going to be quite the same as, you know, the. Was this an all metal, or was this fabric and then the wings were metal? I'm not quite sure. The 200 has never been a huge thing for me, so I don't know. But take it that this is an accurate representation of this aircraft. Let's just do... I'm going to put you on Super Macro Vision and show you this panel line, right? it doesn't look too bad close up. It's a little bit wide. And the surface of the plastic almost looks slightly textured. I want to be as fair as I can here with this kit. If I just show you some pieces that give me the impression I'm getting, right? I'm not talking about the individual components, just the feel of this kit. It is not in the same league as that MiniArt kit. If you look, and again, I'll show you on the macro if I can. I'll try and get some pieces that show you this, that I can actually get access to. Let's just see if I can get the center here. I don't think I can because of the angle of it, but right, this is the central injection port. Now can you see that sort of like slight misalignment on the mold there? And then that isn't out of focus on that is flash along the main runner. And I know it's just the main runner, it's not strategically important, but that occurs in various places on this. Right, here we go. The trouble is I'm having is getting pieces I can actually show you. Do you see how that is? It's like the surface of the mold is slightly textured. And look at the lack of finesse on that at the back. Also, that little stub sticking out is flash. This actually shows it quite well. Look at the size and how rounded that line is. These panel lines here are objectively huge. Right, that is this feels like 2000s technology, whereas the MiniArt kit feels like it's like used with the most modern CAD, computer controlled CNC machining to make the tools, electrospark welding, and then the best injection molding. This doesn't quite feel that same thing. It's not bad. Oh, well, no. I've just seen a few things which are bad. Okay. Oh, I haven't got the lens in, sorry. Okay, this is the cockpit wall. That is an ejector pin mark, I believe. There were some more as well. There. In the centre there, that is a big ejector pin mark. And I believe there as well, just the side of that console, it's very difficult for me to get it to try and focus here. There's 4 of them. On the inside, why did they orient it like that? There's none on this side, which is the bit that adheres. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. No, 5. I'm just going to say it. That's shit. And that's a shame, because there are other elements of this kit I really like. I mean, okay, to be fair, the amount of that you will see from this cockpit will be very minimal, but that isn't the point. That's not why you're spending £100 on the kit, right? Also, if those are meant to be seat belts, I hope they're not, because there's Those are bad if they are. But in other areas, you've got, you know, again, this piece is nicely detailed. You've got some nice fastener detail across here. You've got some nice pieces here as well. But overall, that's disappointing. Now, as a first impression, disappointment is not what I was hoping for. Let's have a look at the wings. Okay, well the wings are better. It's like somebody else designed the wings. These look actually very nice. The panel lines are still too thick. I can get my fingernail along those. I mean, just... I apologise, I'm taking longer than normal on these kits. I thought that would be the case. And one of the reasons I wanted to do a second unboxing night... because I think the kits deserve it. But I'm just going to get the... Okay. I mean, compare and contrast, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, there's some nice features on this camera. So let me just come to here. And let me freeze that, and we'll take a picture. Unfreeze it. See if I can get a similar. Oh my god! I don't think we need the freeze frame to be able to show the difference here. Okay. Right, bear with me. I'm just going to go on webcam while I dig out those pictures because I'm not exactly sure where it's saved them. I don't think you really want to see endless pictures of Pablo. But I think you can see where I'm going with this, right? God, all I want to know is where does it save the pictures? Okay, let me just take another picture. Okay, show in folder. There we go. That was the easiest way to do it. And I've just got to find them from the millions of photos I have here. Okay. Inspire photos. Here we go. Open. Okay, let's take this into here. Take this. Sorry folks, normal service will resume shortly. Okay. Let me take you back. So this is the trench for the 1/32 scale Italeri. Right. So just to let you know, if I, what can I do here? I'll just use, so it isn't this wide, it is this wide, right? That is edge to edge there, right? And that is the size of the rivet. Okay. Let me just copy that. I'll paste this as a new layer. Just crop that piece there so we can actually see. Right, that is the difference. That is quite frankly ridiculous. In fact, I'm making it worse than it is. That is the edge. Right, so edge to edge on the MiniArt is that, and on the Italeri is that. That's about 4 times the width. 4 times the width. And again, the rivet. And yes, I know it's a different scale, but 1/32 to 1/48. Okay, that is about the size of the big ones on here, not the normal ones. So 50% increase is what you'd expect, right? So yeah, Italeri, I do feel are lagging behind. Yeah, there's just no comparison. Now, having said all of that, I mean, it's not bad. It's just, it really shows how far other companies like MiniArt, like ICM have come. Whereas, you know, Italeri, if you look at these, they're not bad. These, you know, once they're painted and, you know, weather appropriate, you know, just a little wash and things just to bring them out, these all look good. But it's the imprecision of the parts. It's just the kind of, it just shows that they are lagging behind technology-wise. Hopefully you can see what I mean. Do you see what I mean? It's just kind of a bit soft, the detail. You see, you can see it especially on these. You know, they're sort of soft on one edge. They're kind of like not crisp. And I would have absolutely no problem with this if it wasn't £100. But the fact is, for the same price, in fact for less than this, you can get the Revell 1/32 scale Gloucester Meteor first edition, including the book and everything. As a value proposition then, this instantly looks expensive. Right? And I'm saying this to you all, I have these in my shop, so I have spent money on stock. So I have 2 of these in the shop. So I'm not, you know, if you needed any more evidence of me being straight and honest in my reviews, I am doing myself out of a considerable amount of money by saying this about these kits, and potentially dissuading people from buying them. So, and it's a shame because it's not a bad kit. I mean, you've got some nice detail on these, and I'm sure you've actually got some nice detail here on these. In fact, the detail on this is quite nice and crisp. That is weird. I suppose it's because these, you're limited by the design of making the mold when you've got this, because this is not a slide mold by any stretch of the imagination. But it's just little things like this. Let me show you this. See here? This is flash. You've got flash all the way along these runners. It just looks sloppy. It looks second rate. It looks 20th century by comparison, which isn't acceptable for that price range. If this was £50, it would be a bargain. But it's not. It's over £100. And I can't, with all honesty, say to you, "Oh, guys, go out and buy this from my store really, right now, because it's a real steal." Because I would be lying to you. It's not a steal. I think it's, if you want a 1/32 MC200, I think it's the only horse in the race, right? And with all the extra bits, which we'll get to in a second, I'm sure you'll be able to make a beautiful kit of it. But compared to what else is out there, Italeri need to buck their ideas up. I mean, look at this. You've got sink marks here. What did I say about that MiniArt kit? Not a single sink mark. Look at this. You can see that. Same in the other wing. Oh dear. Why am I doing this? Let me just very quickly, because I'm aware of the time and I don't want to keep you guys all night. So you get these extra bits for the kit. This is really nice. Look, you get these 3D printed decals for the instrument panel. They look good. They give you some tubing and some wire. The photo etch they give you is, well, apart from the fact that it's stuck to the, okay, is a lot, right? And it feels pretty substantial. This is sensational. This is the framing for that top piece where I said you got some nice detail. You can actually take that off and have this, so you can have it open and you've got all of the screw hole receivers. Really good. That's the little bit for the armour. I think those are parts for the I think they go for the seat. So this is good. That's really good. But I think trying to prop up, rather than focusing on the core elements, which is the plastic, this is putting a dress on a pig. It's not a pig. I don't want to be unfair to it, but it is. You're not gilding the lily. You're making it look like a lily by adding this extra stuff, rather than, having a thoroughbred. If that makes sense. I realised I was mixing my metaphors pretty heavily there. Let's have a look at the other components here. So this frame looks a lot better, I will say, after what I said about the main components. This has some really nice pieces. These are quite beautiful. You've got quite complex shapes. They've got this nice little piece where the individual, on the real thing, 1-to-1, where this individual piece of beaten metal basically was then attached to this cowling. That's good. These machine guns are really nice. You've got some great detail on these. The barrels look good. you've got some fairly complex pieces. You've got some levers here for the cockpit. This is good. This is a good frame. These tyres, you've got some nice detail in the hubs here. Individual props there. So this is a standout frame. This is if I'd started with this frame, I might be saying very different things about the kit. So we got two frames which are, you know, okay, but okay isn't acceptable, I don't think, for £100 kit. And then we've got this frame, which is the engine, and this looks pretty good. If a little unrefined in areas. You know, you still have, there's a sink mark here, there's a sink mark there. I mean, I think this will become, I think this will age poorly, right? When I show you the DBMK Sea Fury, which is 1/32 scale, it's, I can't remember what the RRP of it is, but for £100 you can buy one, I think. I think I'm right in saying that. And I think this is going to look old by comparison. These are brand new 2025 molds. So I'm sorry, Italeri, but you need to start thinking ahead of just surviving, because that's all you're going to do if this is your piece de la resistance. And that's what these kits are, right? Flash, 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 flash. These pieces aren't bad with the although for this scale I would have preferred if they had not cast these like this in two halves, you know, because then you get this awkward seam mark down them. There are better ways to handle that. I think this is a cheap way. You know, you have visible seam lines here that you're going to have to clean up. To be honest, I'm disappointed, which is probably the worst thing that anybody can say, right? I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. But this is not what I was hoping for, which is a shame. And I think I'm going to confirm everything that I've just said. With this. For 2020, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say 2025, right, when this was actually, you know, the metal was designed and made. I don't think there have been huge leaps in casting in the past year, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. For 2026 or 2025, clear parts. These aren't good. These are pretty shit, I would say. I think because we are so used to excellent clear parts from Airfix and ICM now, this is like going back to the 70s. It's not, of course, but that's how it feels. Let me show you. Now, I know it's only a light, but can you see the distortion in this part around the corner of the light here? It almost looks like it's a different colour. It's sort of like a sink mark. Just look at the rest of the frame. how grainy the plastic is. And so those lights, I mean, huge panel lines here, way over scale. Let's actually look at an optical piece. There's actually some sort of casting artifact on the side there. That's the clearest part. That doesn't look that bad in close-up. But now let me show you this side. I can't quite get the angle. Let me see if I can twist the part a bit. The risk of breaking it off. I don't know if you can see it from here. See how it's sort of almost got striations at the top? Now, this close-up, that doesn't look as bad, actually, as when you see it here, it comes out, sort of like in macro it looks worse. Perhaps you can see as I'm changing that, it's not a flat plane. And you see how it sort of looks like it's got lines across it? It's not an even thickness of plastic through the part. That's the problem. And it's worse on these pieces. You can, I don't know, can you see that? I can see it here, that the shape of the letters are changing as I'm going over them. You're getting optical distortion because it's not all the same thickness. Those are some of the worst clear parts I've seen on a modern tooled kit for some time, and certainly for one that's asking a premium price for. That's very disappointing. I mean, if Revell do this, okay, let me scale back. Revell are bringing out the T7, right? It's half the price of this kit. Do you think their canopies are going to look like this? I can pretty much guarantee they're not. Again, I come back to the Gloucester Meteor, which is a beautiful kit. Objectively, it's a beautiful kit, the way it's been made. This is not up to that standard. That's the simple part of all of this. I tell you what it's like. It's like they are trying, and I'm sure that's what they're doing, they're trying to make a modern kit using old tech. Because they don't want to, or they don't have the money to invest in the same technology that ICM and Tamiya and MiniArt and Airfix are using. Now let's come to the highlight of the kit, which is of course the decals, which are made by Cartograph, and these look absolutely fantastic. Now these, for some reason, look better than the Cartograph decals in the MiniArt kit. Maybe it's because they're Italian. I don't know. These are fasces, right? These, like, they're rods with like a little axe in them, the symbol of ancient Rome, and where fascism comes from. That's the origin of the word. These are stunning. In fact, let me show you those. Let me show you these. There. Look at that. It's a little work of art. It's got shading and, you know, it's like a little painting. It's stunning. Well, you've got these. Look how crisp that painting is. Oh, not painting, printing, sorry. Which I think just shows you that, you know, that this is, you know, this, not that this is badly printed. This is, you know, it's meant to be like a piece of art, because that's what these were. You know, they weren't just graphics painted by the crews. These were a little bit more sophisticated. These are delightful. And these, once you've gone through the building of that kit, which is going to take a little bit. I mean, all of the things that I've mentioned aren't end of the road things. They are going to make your life a little bit more difficult to give a really polished result. And you are going to be able to create, at the end of the day, a beautiful MC200 for £100. And these, at the end of the day, when you put these on, this is what will elevate it and make it look absolutely amazing. But there we go. So I'm afraid we only managed the two. What is going on with my chroma filter, honestly? So apologies. Can I get that any better? We get the bees back. Let's get rid of the bees. We'll just go with that. And I'll try not to move so I don't confuse the camera too much. In fact, let me put light on me. That might help. There we go. So yeah, only got two kits done, but I wanted to give you that sort of deep dive into, specifically on the MC200 there, and a comparison between those kits. Because the Mackie is twice the price of that 190. It's obviously going to give you more modelling time, probably at least twice as much, maybe more. Is it all going to be enjoyable modelling time? So, yeah, that's a difficult one. I couldn't, in all honesty, say to somebody that is a kit you should definitely buy. I think that's a kit you buy if you've always wanted an MC200 in 30-second scale. And it's like, yeah, it's a good kit. It's got some good bits in it. It's got the photo etch and the 3D printed decals and everything. Do I think it's good value? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. £60, £70 maybe. I could think, okay, that it's expensive, but £100 is a lot for what you're getting there, I feel. So, right, I'm aware it's 10 o'clock, or just past 10 o'clock, so apologies for running late. I will just quickly look at questions. I appreciate people have had to run off, and I know that's my fault for wittering on. But if you want the answers to the questions, I will answer them, because of course people will watch this back, and I want to make sure I've covered all of these off. So Mr. Ed72 says, what is going on with the Italeri? They are all over the place. Some kits are total crap, Reebok's old toolings, bad quality and such, and then all of a sudden they produce a cracking kit like this. I mean, is it a cracking kit? It's the MC202 they did. I did an unboxing of that when it came out almost 2 years ago now, I think about 18 months ago. That was really nice. I feel that 200 is not an improvement on what they did then. They've kind of stayed at the same level. Oh, okay, Mr. Ed says, I take cracking kit back. Okay, fair enough. I didn't see that. Yeah. Howard says, I am building the 1/48 scale Tamiya Mosquito as we chat. 1998 tool. This is a super build and the limited panel lines are pretty sweet. Comparison, near to, yeah. So Tamiya, this is one of the reasons that Tamiya have been the gold standard for a long time, because what they were doing in the 90s, I would say, is better than that. Literally. And that's what I feel. It's like, it's almost like Italeri have some old worn out like Tamiya stuff, machines or whatever, and they're using that to do the high end stuff because it's Tamiya. But it's like, yeah, those are the knackered machines they don't use anymore. It's not that, obviously, but that's almost what it feels like. And bear in mind, of course, there aren't many panel lines on the Mosquito because it would, so it didn't have them. But I understand what you mean. The Bowfighter is, and I think they're like 20 quid roundabout. Some of them are less than that. You could buy 5 of them for that. And it's not that different a size aircraft once you've got a 48 scale Mosquito, 1/32 scale small fighter, about the same. So yeah. Paul says Italeri are one of those companies that should concentrate on the basics and leave all the flashy stuff to others. Probably because you can't charge £100 for a box standard model. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can, right? Qatari prove that you can. Their Mark 1 Spitfire is a standard plastic injection molded kit, doesn't have an engine, but it is the most accurate, most beautifully produced kit of the Spitfire Mark 1 that you can buy. And that's how people then justify it to themselves. It's like, yeah, but this is the only Spitfire I'll need to build in this, 1/32 scale Mark 1. So you can't do it doing that without leaving a bad taste. And this is what you want to avoid, right? This is what all the companies got into trouble for in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, was reboxing old crap and, selling not very good kits at a premium price. And if the modelling experience is bad, you don't go back, So Adrian says, thank you, Alex, you just saved me £100. That's no good. I've spent the money on them. I take it all back. They're great kits. How many do you want? I can sell you 3. Craig says, I think there is a good kit in the MC200. It just takes some work. I think you're right. No, don't get me wrong. It's not a bad kit. If we were given that in 2000, we'd be praising it. And that's the problem, right? Is because we're not in 2000. We're in 2026, and companies like Atari, like MiniArt, like DBMK, I'm seeing tomorrow, exist. Airfix have improved to Tamiya kind of levels. ICM exist. Tamiya continuously push themselves so that, as Airfix and other companies get close, they get ahead. You have the likes of Tacom and Meng who are racing up to the front. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have a fond spot for Italeri, but I think I would say that there isn't a Meng kit that I know of, or a Tacom kit that I know of that's like that. Which is saying something, right? So, anyway, I've kept you all long enough. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad it was instructive for some of you. I would encourage you to buy the FW190, especially as I have to cut my losses with C200. But no, thanks again for joining. As I say, I'm going to see the launch event of the DBMK Sea Fury tomorrow. Really looking forward to that, and I think that'll knock spots off that MC200. The only problem is the MC200 has some beautiful camouflage schemes, so I'm going to have to build it anyway. So anyway, thanks everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.